Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Happily Ever After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Colton Simmons, and today I have with me Jaime Lorenzoni, who is the owner of Champagne and Grit. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Jaime.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast amidst all the craziness that is being a small business owner. So I would love for you to introduce yourself for the audience who may not know who you are or what you do.
I'm Jaime, the owner of Champagne and Grit, and we have been around, and by we, I mean me, for 10 years, and it didn't start that way. I've been a bridal accessory designer who has transformed her business into a flatlay styling expert and vintage enthusiast and restorer, and yeah, that's where we are.
Awesome. So you started your business on Etsy, correct? Or did it start elsewhere and then to Etsy?
It started on Etsy. It started on Etsy, just seeing where it could go. Never in a million years did I think by putting a few bridal accessories online that I would have a full-time thriving business 10 years later. Never in my wildest dreams.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So what was it that made you want to launch on Etsy over other platforms? And what was it that got you into this industry in the first place?
I'm going to date myself a little bit, but 10 years ago, there really wasn't a lot of other creative handmade platforms for sellers. And I guess there's always like flea markets and things like that. And as cliche as it sounds, I was a bride and I could not find what I wanted. I have a background in fashion and I was in the fashion industry. I was a visual executive for Macy's. So I could not find unique bridal accessories. I went to, I don't know, 200 salons. I live in South Florida. They have this thing called the Miracle Mile. And there are, I think, like 100 bridal salons in like a 7-mile radius. And I could not find anything unique. So I made it. And then from there, my wedding photographer and a couple other people were like, oh my goodness, where did you get this? So I started to make accessories and sell them on Etsy. I can still remember being in the parking lot of Macy's when I heard that first ka-ching and being like, oh my God, I sold something, and just being so excited. It was like a $55 birdcage blush veil, and that was it.
Back when couples were doing a lot of the birdcage blush veils, I remember because dating myself, my wife and I got married 10 years ago in 2013, and I remember she bought one and thought about using it and then ended up actually going with like the traditional veil. So that is so awesome. What made you transition from going from designing things for brides into creating, flat lay items? And, for me, like before I even got into wedding photography, like I had no idea that there was even this niche market of creating items for photographers to use on the day of the wedding to design with the invitation shots and the ring shots and things like that.
Neither did I. I had no idea. So as my bridal photography, or not photography, I'm not a photographer. A lot of people think that, but I'm not. I've never been a photographer. As my bridal accessory line grew, I needed better pictures, and I wanted pictures of brides. And even though I had brides sending me pictures, they weren't necessarily the best caliber photos. Yeah. So I was like, okay, how can I get better pictures? So I started doing styled shoots. And when I say I started doing styled shoots, I did 53 styled shoots in a year.
Oh, wow.
That I physically attended, not talking about the ones that I was sending my accessories to, because I was like, okay, how can I get published? How can I get my work out there? How can I get more features? How can I work with more photographers? And this was just for my bridal accessories. That's what I was focused on. And I remember the first shoot I went to, it was so high end. It had amazing photographers. It had cakes. It had florals. It had everything. I knew it was going to get published. And I had made a gorgeous 15-foot dip-dyed veil. I had made a bridal belt. I had made a headpiece. And they went to take pictures of the accessories doing the flat lay. And they laid it on a rock and took the picture. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
A rock.
A rock. And I was like, And this was an amazing, talented photographer. And then they took like a couple flowers and they put it around. And I was like, that's it? That's all we're doing? So I was like, do you mind if I like do some things? So like I went around and found other elements. I had like my little like sewing scissors in the car and some other elements. And I quickly whipped together a flatlay with the things that I had. She was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So she took some pictures and I was like, oh no, this can't happen. So I started bringing vintage items. I started making the ribbon out of other fabrics that I had, out of the silks from the veils. And I just started bringing them. And then photographers were like, where did you get that? Can you make me one? So that's kind of how it started. It did not start that way. And I wasn't selling them. I was a bridal accessory designer that was like curating styling kits for local photographers. And then I started styling for photographers on wedding days at these high-end venues. And that's kind of just...
Oh, wow. So you were actually getting hired by these photographers to say like, hey, on the day of the wedding, I don't have the time to sit down and style this. Like you would show up and just style the flat. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't anything that I ever thought of as a business. And I had a huge styling kit and people just kept asking to buy the stuff. So I would just sell it. Like after the shoot, like a photographer would be like, can I buy that? I'm like, okay. And then my girlfriend, Erica, was like, she's a crazy talented photographer and she shot my work and has taught me how to shoot my work better, was like, you need to be selling this. This needs to be a business. This is a need. Like, you need to be doing this. You need to be teaching people. And I was like, no, I'm a bridal accessory designer. I'm a bride. And I just kept saying that. Yeah. She was right.
And now here you are.
Yeah. And now here I am.
Awesome. So at the time, was there anybody else really in this market, or were you kind of like would you say you spearheaded this?
I mean, at that point, I wasn't looking, so I don't know. You know what I mean? I have no idea. And then when I started to get into it and really started to focus on it, there was a couple of other people that were doing the same thing as me, but not at the same level. They were buying ribbon on Amazon and reselling it. Like I make my ribbon. I buy silk from France in giant bolts and I rip it and I make everything. I make the wax seals. I buy the vintage and restore it. I restore vintage furniture. Like that's how I know how to restore the pieces. So, you know, at that point in time, I don't know. Like, I don't want to speak out of turn and say yes, because I wasn't selling on Etsy. Yeah. I was just
you were selling locally.
Yeah, I was selling locally at my 53 styled shoots that I went to in a year. Like, I was so focused on becoming a bridal accessory designer. Like, I was so close. I was like, this is it. This is happening. Like, I was on Say Yes to the Dress. Like, I almost peed my pants when that happened. Like, my design was on there. Like, Randy Viola is with my bride and like shouted me out. And I was like, it's happening. Like, yeah.
That's awesome. So what year was this all around when you launched doing Champagne and Grit and you were doing the styled shoots that year? What was that year?
2000 and probably 16 or 17. Let's say 2017 was when I was really hitting. 16 and 17 was when I was really hitting that circuit hard. Because 18 was when I was like blowing up and I was like, this is the year.
That's awesome. So do you do any bridal design anymore, or is it strictly just the flat lay stuff?
I am retired. I have said I will come out of retirement. I only have one more bridal accessory left in me. When my little sister gets married, if she wants me to, I will come out of retirement, but that's it.
Maybe potential daughters in the future as well.
No. There's no children in this future. No kids for me. Just for babies. Just for puppies.
Perfect. So, you launch everything on Etsy. You start taking stride once you get the name out with all these photographers at the styled shoot. when did you realize that this was something that you were doing on the side that could transition into being like your full-time career? Because were you doing this, like, were you doing the bridal stuff alongside while you were at Macy's and all of this while you were at Macy's? When did you officially like leave a full-time corporate job and take this on as a full-time commitment?
2015. Yeah. So I was doing the bridal accessories and I was a full-time visual executive for Macy's, and I was married at the time, and he had a restaurant, and I also worked at the restaurant with him. So I was very busy. Yeah. I just had a couple things going on, and I was at a point in my career that I knew a huge promotion was coming. And I wasn't happy anymore. And I knew that they were going to offer me a lot more money. And I was going to be a creative director, but that portion of being creative wasn't going to be there anymore. I wasn't going to be doing fashion. I wasn't going to be training people. I wasn't going to be doing setups. I was just going to be like sitting in a room, doing trainings, meetings, putting corporate directives together. Yeah. And I was already doing that. I was already filling in that capacity, and it was just sucking my soul. And I was traveling so much, and I was not happily married. Things were not going well. And I was talking to my mom, and my business had definitely gained traction. I was not at that, 53 style shoots in a year. And she was like, quit. I was like, what? My mom, who was like, go to college, get good grades, like stay on the path. She was like, just quit. And I was like, what? She was like, quit, do this full time, like chase your dream. So I did. I quit.
And look at you now.
I quit my executive job that I knew a huge promotion was coming. I got a divorce. I left Florida. I moved back home to be with my family and my loved ones for like 6 months to just kind of like center myself. And my mom does taxes and did accounting and bookkeeping, like very financially sound, doesn't do risky things. Like, yeah. She was like, just, take some of your retirement. I was like, who is this woman? Like, what is happening right now?
So you knew it was something special for someone who's very calculated your entire life to say, take this risk. And
yes, my mom has always been like, chase the dream, do crazy things, but like always with calculation, like always, what good and bad, like what possibly could go wrong. Like, let's weigh the options. But like, she didn't even say, let's weigh the options. She was like, quit. You're not happy. Do this. This is like filling your soul and making you happy. So I did. I quit. I cashed in some of my retirement. Like I did some real crazy things in like a very short period of time. And Macy's offered me a crazy raise. And I said no. And then they offered me another crazy raise. I said no. And I was like, am I making a mistake? And yeah, I just kept going.
I don't think you made a mistake. I look at my journey as a photographer, and I had a job for a corporation that I was doing product photography, that anybody who, would go to school for photography or graphic design or any type of design work would be like, you're crazy for leaving that job. But at the same time, I know that feeling of feeling like your soul sucked out of you every day. You're making that commute into the studio, and you're like, I just shot 2 weddings this weekend, and I made more in those 2 weddings than I'm going to make from this job all month. And I love what I get to do. I love to be able to create and have that freedom. And I'm going into this job that's going to put me in a box and tell me what I need to do, and that the products need to be photographed in the specific way. And it was just no creativity in a creative job. So I know that feeling of, not feeling fulfilled. And I was in an opposite position where I was promised a raise that never came, and it finally came the review that I sat down to quit. It was like 3 weeks before I was planning on putting my 2 weeks in, and my boss, was like, oh, we're going to schedule your review for the year. And he's like asking me all these like questions, like very like overtly happy with me than he had been in the past. And I basically was like, he was like, so where do you see yourself in the company in 6 months? And I said, well, I don't know that I can see myself with the company in another month. I was actually going to be putting my 2 weeks in, but I guess you guys can kind of take this as my month notice that, you know, I'm going to be leaving to, you know, chase my dream. So I know how scary that feeling is because you're stepping into a whole world of unknowns. Could you maybe share with me some of the challenges you faced during this transition out of, you know, a very cushy job into self-sufficiency, so to say?
Sure. I think, I mean, I'm still in it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we all are.
You know, taking a risk like that, I think being a business owner, period, it's always risky, you know? Even though I have been doing this full time, I think as you continue to grow, you take bigger risks, and the money you make, you turn around and you invest it back in the business. And I'm very scrappy. So like if something isn't working, you know, you do something else to make ends meet. I'm always like, what can I sell? What is here? Like, what can I sell on Facebook Marketplace? What piece of furniture don't I need? So it has definitely been it has not been an easy choice. And there has been plenty of times that I'm like, should I go get a job? Should I not be doing this anymore? And I think, I'm sure you've had that. I think every person that's a small business owner has that, like that moment, like there are no orders. And that is so scary. Like not having any orders, having a $0 day is awful because you just don't know. Being a product-based business is not for the faint of heart.
Definitely. I would say being an entrepreneur in itself is the same, you know, so in doing so, what would you say brand identity has had its role in your success as an entrepreneur, and maybe kind of speak to anybody who's in the wedding market and how their brand identity could really help them speak and find their ideal couple, client, whatever it may be that they're looking for.
It's funny. I never wanted to be my brand. I never wanted to be the face of it. I didn't show my face for a really long time. And now I am the brand. I never wanted to be. I wanted champagne and grit. And I think not having an ego about it is the biggest thing that I can offer somebody. Because if you're going to be a brand, somebody's perception of your brand and of you is, you got to be fluid. Some people will think your brand is something and it's totally not. But if it means that to them and they love it, let them have it.
Yeah, it's so cool because I go through with my photography mentor students about how important it is to kind of have a brand identity that's focused on who you are, because when couples are looking to book a photographer for their wedding day, they aren't looking for the Macy's or you know, the Nordstrom of wedding photography. They want that personal designer who made the dress, in terms of wedding photographers. So they want someone they can connect with. They want to see what your hobbies are. They want to see a little bit of what your life's like, what you do on a day-to-day basis, because the most important thing I found is when I build relationships with my couples on their wedding day, like it makes the experience that much better for them, that it's just like they have another friend with them all day and not just this like very cold, disconnected corporate photographer with them.
I think too, there's different, like when somebody wants to invest in a small business, it's more than just the brand. They're investing in you.
Yeah. They're investing in my family, my children.
They want a little bit more than, like you said, like they're going to Macy's. They don't care. They want that connection with you. They want to know a little bit more about you, about what you stand for as a person. So I don't know. My brand identity, like my whole philosophy is one, just one. If I have made a connection with one person in a day, if I have made one person's day better or brighter, then I think I've done my job, whether that's I spend at least an hour every day interacting with past clients, liking their work, liking their posts, because it's really, and it's not like a marketing, it has nothing to do with that. Like, I'm a small business. It is so soul sucking to be on Instagram, to spend all this time to post, and then crickets. No one likes your thing or whatever. Like,
or the algorithm just like hides your posts and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So I just feel like, you know, we all need like a little bit of love and a little bit of support. So I feel like if I can help one person, whether that's I taught them something styling or I brighten their day by liking their posts, like, that's enough for me, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time I bought in some, I think it was at the beginning of this wedding season. I bought like a whole bunch of stuff and you were like, I'm on vacation, but as soon as I get home, I'm going to fulfill the order. And like, literally, I think you said you were going to be home on like a Wednesday or something like that. And I get like an email that morning that like my order had been fulfilled. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like she wasn't lying. Like she really like stuck. And a lot of times when I've interacted with so many like Etsy shops where I buy something, they send it. When I get it, and like there's no connection via social media. So I can say that at least with you, when you have photographers, probably I'm one of just many that you have this interaction with. When they buy things, like you're making that personal effort to go beyond just the Etsy walls, so to say, and interact with them. So that's awesome, because I've followed other brands that I've bought things from, and you know, not that they owe me a follow back on social media, but to see that you do engage with other folks is great. So
I try. I feel like small business dollars are worth more dollars to me, because it's just, you know, you could spend your money anywhere, and the fact that you've chosen to spend it with me means a lot.
Definitely. So in running a business that is product based, could you be able to like maybe share like some of the like financial aspects of running a business? Like, what do you do? Like, is it like, do you have to buy like a certain amount of stock to make sure that you're good? A lot of stuff you're like, kind of break down what it looks like for you to kind of like manage that kind of aspect of your business, if you don't mind.
Sure. It's very scary to buy a lot of things. I will say this, my past life being an executive for Macy's, working in fashion, doing trend forecasting, definitely has set me up for success in this business. I would say I'm pretty good at trend forecasting what things are going to be, and buying in advance. Not everything is a winner. Plenty of things flop. That's just the way that it goes. But the longer you're in business, I think the better I get at kind of predicting what it is. When I first started out, I wanted to be able to service everybody. I wanted to have every color ring box, every shape ring box. It's just not realistic. And my heart does break when somebody wants something, but stock levels, like, it's not, I'd flip the camera around, but I know we'll mess up our whole setup. I'll show you at the end. Like, I have thousands of dollars sitting in my studio right now in my 10 by 12 room. And I try not to think about that, because it's very, very nerve wracking to be like, wow, this room has like $20,000 worth of inventory in it. Like, it gets like a little bit stressful. I do make a lot of my products. So my ribbon, all of that stuff. But then again, like, I'm buying from France. So I buy a bolt of fabric, which is 40 yards. I better be right. The dusty blue is the color of the season. Otherwise, I'm sitting on a ton of dusty blue silk fabric. And before, when I was doing like bridal accessories, it was very easy to move through that quantity, because a veil, a cape, where ribbon, you know, it's like an inch and a half wide. Like, you better be on it, because I'm paying a customs fee. I'm paying an import fee.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta know what you're doing in order to get it right. But in the same breath, like, people are like, oh, your cost must be lower because you're making everything. But then you got to take into account the time that it takes to make it. You have to pay yourself. And when I first started out, I wasn't paying myself anything. Yeah. And sometimes I still don't pay myself anything. And thank goodness I have my mom that helps me. She's been working nonstop, boxing up orders since the launch.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a little bit because I kind of want to take people through your journey and talk about the exciting news. No.
But inventory wise, yes. And buying in advance is like one of the big things. When I plan for the year. So I'm completely planned all the way till the end of this year. And
so like what products you're going to launch,
yes.
The things that people may not see now is already in development for the season.
I have a kit that's going to launch at the end of June. I have something that's going to happen in July. I have a kit that's going to launch in August. I have something that's going to happen in September. And then I am going to, I think, take October off to be ready for something big that's going to happen in November if I can get the stars to align. But like, I've been working on styling mats for a year and a half now, and they're still not ready to launch.
Oh wow!
Like production and things like that. I don't rush things. I'm very crazy about making sure it's perfect. And like the kit that's launching in June is going to be a sage green and dusty blue, and the fabric came and the bolt had damage on it. So I had to send it back to France. Yeah. So like things like that happen in a product-based business. So I think I got off tangent. I'm sorry.
No. That was amazing. I feel like you shed light behind what it's like to run a business like yours. And I'm so glad that you're able to make this phone call because, again, I feel like people hear from wedding planners, people hear from photographers, people hear from videographers, but there has never been a time where I'm like on a YouTube channel watching things about the wedding industry and somebody who creates the beautiful flat lay items gets a chance to share like the behind the scenes of how your business runs. So how, running your business in this way, how have you differentiated your business from other sellers on Etsy and in the broader market?
Well, as time goes on, what is it that they say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery?
Yes.
The longer I'm out here, the more the competition continues to copy, we'll say,
imitate. Imitate's a good word,
imitate,
right?
Yeah, that's the word from the thing. So I feel like now we're all kind of, I think my biggest thing is vintage. I spend a lot of time procuring vintage. That really is like my love language. I love vintage. Mm-hmm. And I think for wedding photographers, it does add something really special to a flat lay.
It does.
I know it's not for everybody. I know it's kind of like a special thing, but it adds something special. I take a lot of time sourcing vintage and restoring it. So I would say that that's something that sets me apart, and then that I make the majority of my pieces, and that I spend a lot of time trend forecasting and pulling together all of my styling kits. I think that those are the three things that really set me apart from the competition.
And I think that goes to speak on your experience, not only in the wedding industry, but working for a major company like Macy's, where you're learning about forecasting, you're learning about, understanding what the seasons are going to be speaking to next year, not just this year. And you're taking that and putting it into this small business that you have and impacting the wedding industry, whether you may not know it at all, because, you're forecasting, but you're also having your input of like, okay, these dusty blue things are going to be what's in this summer. And when brides are going and they're looking at inspiration and stuff, and they're finding your shop, maybe along the search for their bridal accessories, they're going to say, oh, she's got a lot of dusty blue. Like that. I know, kind of thought about colors for the bridesmaids, but like, what if that's the color we go? And it's funny that you say that, because the wedding that I shot on Sunday was a dusty blue bridesmaid's dress and all that. So
dusty blue floral. That's what it's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I wish we had a lot more floral dresses. Like I've seen some, some of those South Florida weddings down there where the bridesmaids go all out.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
bright colors, different colored dresses,
Yes.
floral dresses. So I'm waiting for that to finally make its way up north, but I'll probably have to make my way down to Florida sooner to be able to partake in
You'll
that.
get it.
So,
You'll get it when you get to Florida.
yeah, definitely.
Print on print
So,
on print.
yes. So you kind of hinted to it a little while ago, but you recently have made a huge launch. So you left your full-time job. You committed to this business that has lived solely, not solely, you've had your website that you could purchase things from correctly in the past, right? Or was it solely through Etsy?
Just Etsy.
So everything was solely through Etsy,
Yes.
which is a great platform for creatives to be able to sell things.
Absolutely.
But I know that at the end of the day, and you're looking at all of your bottom line items, you're like, the fees and the costs that come from selling on somebody else's platform, it's like working for somebody else's job. You can get paid $90,000 to do a job for a company, or you can have a limitless ceiling to what you can make doing something working for yourself. So recently you launched everything solely on your website and you walked away from Etsy after how many years on the site?
I'm still with Etsy. We didn't break up. I'm still with Etsy. I would say in a limited capacity. I will not be selling everything on Etsy. I didn't leave them. We didn't break up all the way. We're just seeing.
So you guys are co-parenting Champagne and Grace right now.
We're co-parenting Champagne. Yes.
Oh, one thing I also wanted to ask before we get too far ahead.
Sure.
Is there a story behind the name Champagne and Grit? Sorry.
Yes. So when I first launched, I was Jamie Bridal Couture, because I needed like a very quick name. I did not like it. And I loved Champagne and Grit. And champagne because life deserves to be celebrated. Especially in the wedding industry, and then grit because life is really, really hard, and you have to have grit to keep going. And you just have to. You have to get knocked down, and you have to get back up. And I changed the name of the business, I guess, in the transition time when I quit my job, when I got my divorce. So it just kind of like felt like, like it was the time.
It was a new life.
It was my moment. And then I also got the tattoo, the arrow tattoo at the same time, because an arrow can only move forward by being pulled back. So I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
All these things are happening at once. You're leaving this job where you're going to be making all this money. You're going to move back home in with your mom, because that's what I did for a short period of time. You're changing the name of your business. So Champagne and Grit, I'm celebrating this new beginning, and Grit because I'm tough. I left a lot of things. I walked away from my house. I let my husband have it. Just so many things were happening. So that's where the name came from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is a really strong testament and a really strong reminder of, anybody who's an entrepreneur knows those nights, like you said, where you're like, I haven't gotten any inquiries for weddings for the last 3 weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's the slow season, so I don't have, guaranteed paychecks, and I saved enough to make it through the winter, but my boiler just went and I needed to replace that. And you just, all these things going through your mind, and you're like, my kid's future, how am I going to have enough saved away? And to make that leap. Yeah. Champagne and Grit. We need to celebrate the grittiness of life. I like it.
Yes.
To kind of come back from that tangent about the meaning behind the name of your company. What led you to transition away from Etsy and to start selling more predominantly on your own website?
It has been on the never ending list of things to do, which I know, as a small business owner, there's always that running list of what needs to be done next. And Etsy continues to change the platform. They continue to change fees, and they continue to up the fees. And I was selling vintage, and I was doing it on Instagram, and doing it posting a story, and then you DM me to claim it. And that's just very stressful.
I remember I partook in that.
I was going to say, I think you partook in that. And like, I love doing it and people get so excited, but it is incredibly stressful. And I'm always so nervous. Like, what if I mess up? What if you DM me and then somebody else had already DM me? Like, it just was getting to be too stressful. I couldn't sell vintage on Etsy. The margin is so crazy. And if you're thinking about selling on Etsy, or if you sell on Etsy, they have made a mandatory like opt-in Google thing that they advertise your product and you have no control over it. I spent a lot of time doing SEO and learning how it worked. Mm-hmm. So I had products organically showing up on Google on the first page. And now I'm getting hit with the advertising fee that they're taking an additional 15% on top of their 6%, on top of their 3.5 transaction percent, on top of the 20% or 20 cent listing fee, a 25-cent listing fee, a 20 cent.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I'm going to have to sell this pair of opera glasses for $350, which is just crazy. So I was like, if I want to continue to sell vintage, if I want to continue to grow my business, if I want to sell the products that I want to sell at a margin that is affordable for photographers, I need to leave Etsy. Like, there are certain things that I'm going to sell on there because, let's face it, people go there to look for things.
Yeah.
It's been great to me. It's brought me so many wonderful clients, and it's going to continue to bring me wonderful clients, but not everything can go on there.
Yeah. And I think you're in a great space where you can kind of sit there, look at the items that have a lower margin for you in terms of like, okay, these will be my introductory items. I can still gain new clients there, and they can also know when they get their email from me, like, hey, I also sell vintage items on my website once they do purchase that, which is genius. It's like it's what people in, you know, like at least the education sphere, we talk about like low ticket to high ticket things, you know, offering low ticket courses that are like, you know, a few $100 where you have no interaction with the person who created it, but you get something, you know, very valuable out of it. Or you have like a more high ticket thing where you're going in and you're getting a full course to help you build up your business, mentoring with, you know, all these other bells and whistles. So it makes the perfect sense for you to have that kind of behind your own gates, so to say, because you get to, you know, not one, you're also thinking of the consumer. You're not making it more expensive for us to be able to buy opera glasses, but we can now buy it at a rate where you're still making profit and you're recouping the time you spend in restoring it. And not losing out on a huge profit margin.
Yes. And I just feel like the price of everything is just continuing to rise. Shipping prices are rising, like products are rising, bubble wrap is rising. Everything just keeps going up. And Etsy has not raised their prices for this year. And for the past like 2 or 3 years, they keep raising it 2%, 3%. I'm like, another increase is coming. I haven't raised my prices on Etsy. There's a couple things like listings that I might have raised 50 cents, $1, but like I have not done a huge price increase where a lot of shops did that when they hiked it up another 3% and then did the 15%, 10% advertising fees. I raised my prices like $1, 50 cents. But if they do that again, I can't afford not to raise my prices because the price of everything else has gone up. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I said to you earlier when we were not on, like, I don't feel good about that. Like everybody is just trying to make money. Everybody is like, I'm a small business supporting another small business. You're chasing a dream. You're supporting your family. Like I want to support you in that. I'm not trying to rip you off, but I gotta make mine too. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
It was time. Like I was to the point. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make it as a business owner this next go round of rate increases because I'll have to raise my prices. And I know that the client base probably can't increase with that. Yeah. I'm going to lose a client.
And I think you made the best decision for everyone. So with that being said, it's been about a week now, almost a week that you've launched the site. How has the support from past clients been since making that switch?
I'm so blown away. I'm going to get teary-eyed. Like, I'm so blown away. Like I never expected the way that people showed up for me ever in a million years. And then people that didn't shop, that shared my post and shared things or sent clients to me. Like, I am just so touched.
You got this. You got this. That's so awesome that you've built this community of people who, you know, that's who our clients are. They're a community of people who come to support us. So that's so awesome that you're able to do that. Hey, we're human. We're human.
Am I the first person that's cried on your show?
Seeing that you're the second person on the show, yes, but I don't think that you'll be the last.
Look at you. Yeah, no, I'm so blown away. So blown away.
Awesome. So, what would you say you see for the future of Champagne and Grit now that you've started this new journey? And, you know, I know you said you have some news that you definitely don't want to speak upon yet, but like, what are some like future goals and hopes that you have for Champagne and Grit?
So many things. So, I mean, I'll tell you something. The new styling kit's launching. The styling mats are hopefully launching.
I'm excited for that.
Fall, Christmas-ish. Again, I'm crazy about things and people get so frustrated, but like, I never want to launch something that's subpar.
Yeah.
Or that's not, I am a perfectionist, which is not good in business, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I will be rolling out in soon. I'm going to start talking about it probably in 2 weeks. We'll talk about it now. It might be I don't know when you're launching this. A branded.
This will go live next week, so it'll be closer. Yeah.
That's fine. We can talk about it now. Then a brand ambassador program that I'm going to roll out. So if you love Champagne and Grit and you love,
I love Champagne and Grit,
and you love flatlays and you want to rep my brand, applications will be open. To talk to me about that, to be like a sponsor for the brand, and you'll get cash back and all sorts of fun things. So that's coming. I have done away with custom styling kits and working with people one-on-one for custom, but that was to open up for something else, because as much as I love doing it, it was taking up so much time and it was very expensive, and I felt like I wasn't able to serve enough people. So I'm going to be launching studio hours. That's probably going to be like every other month. That will be a wait list, and you can sign up to work with me one-on-one for an hour. And that can be however much we can cram in that time, whether it's for your brand, whether it's for weddings, whether it's for styled shoots. And I will curate what you're dreaming of. And there's no custom fee attached to that. It's just you buy the products at the end. And I think that's it for now.
That's awesome. Well, you know, Jaime, I really appreciate you taking the time to, you know, kind of give us a look behind the veil of what it's like to run a small business on Etsy and now on your own website that services so many weddings. Like, you know, you look at wedding vendors, right? And a florist can only be at maybe like 3 weddings a weekend. A planner can only do 1 wedding a weekend. Yes. Whereas someone like you is involved with dozens of wedding every weekends because of, you know, the nature of your business. So I definitely found it really important to highlight you and all the hard work that you've done, especially being on the receiving end of your products, and to speak to the quality of what I've received, and nothing's ever come broken or anything like that. And that, you know, selling like ceramic plates has got to be a very like unnerving business where you're like, how many of these am I going to have to replace after I've already sent them out? So I just want to say thank you as well for that aspect of things. So if anybody is interested in buying some flatlay items, following you on social media, where can they find you on social media and your website?
They can find me at champagneandgrit.com. Oh, and I launched a YouTube channel to teach people how to style. Oh my goodness. Hello. Hi. Yes.
So
oh my goodness. See, I'm so like
No, it's awesome. So you're teaching photographers how to style flatlays on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
I watched like a couple of those videos this morning before we chatted.
I do quick ones on Instagram, but it's hard for that 60-second cutting it and uploading it. And once I get past like doing 6 of them in a row, sometimes I will miss a video. So I have challenged myself to try to do 1 a week, except when I'm in the middle of a launch. So yeah, I'm always taking suggestions on what you want to learn how to style, because I know it's hard and people don't know how to do it. And I know there's courses out there, and I am not knocking anyone that has a course, but they're very, very expensive. Yeah. And there is definitely value in all of those things. But for people that might be starting out or at mid-level and they're trying to elevate their brand and they know they need flatlays and they can't spend that kind of money to invest in a course, I'm happy to teach you for free. Like,
awesome. So they can find you on YouTube.
YouTube at Champagne and Grit. And if you go to my Instagram, I have both links in my bio. Just really simple, quick, easy styling tips and tricks. I always am taking, you want to learn how to do something, you can always just drop me a DM and I'll make a styling video on it. And I try to keep everything under like 15 minutes. I'll do 2-minute styling. I'll do 5-minute styling, 10-minute, like just really easy, because weddings are stressful.
Yes. And a 2-minute styling is like something heaven sent for us. So awesome. Well, thank you again, Jaime, for taking the time.
My pleasure.
I thank you for your time. So guests, thank you for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you that take the time to listen. Before I wrap up, I do want to do a shameless plug for my wedding photography mentoring program, Pathway to Full-Time Photography. If you are a wedding photographer or you know a wedding photographer that's looking to elevate their business, I encourage you to reach out to me via my website at coltonsimmons.com or the links in the description to find out more about my mentorship program. And I thank you again for listening to this episode. I will see you all in the next one.